And welcome back. Or just welcome if you're new here. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And we are going to continue while I try to finish up my Shark Week. And yes, so let's get down to it, shall we? Also, I'm in Florida where it's almost the middle of December and we're having a heat wave. So it's too hot to put on socks. You'll just have to deal with my feet. But they are cute, so you'll be alright. So now we are going to move on with 47 meters down to Uncaged. Yes. So, 47 Meters Down, Uncaged was released in 2019. It's another PG-13. It was directed by Johannes Roberts and stars Sophie Nélisse, Corinne Foxx, and Brianne Tju. Oh, what fancy names. So yes. Now, I had heard before I bought it that, it was a step down. It's an alright, mediocre popcorn movie, shark movie, but it doesn't compare to the first one, and I agree. But I did like it, and yeah, so we're going to get into it. The movie opens with a girl being pushed into a pool, and we find out that her name is Mia. She's pushed into the pool by the local mean girls in this school. And right in front of what we later find out is her stepsister, Sasha. So, that would have been the end of the movie right there for me, probably, because I would have been in jail. Because if I had been Mia, when I got up out of that pool like she did, with my wet book bag, Miss Catherine would have went flying across that pool like a flying fish. I mean, I would have put the bitch at the bottom. So, but she's being bullied, so yeah. So we sort of get the dynamics, of the family. They are recently stepsistered by their prospective parents. Sasha's mother has married Mia's father. And, yeah, so they are, and he has moved down to the Yucatan, Mexico, and his name is Grant. He's an archaeologist, and he has discovered this sort of underwater Incan city that's been flooded through time. So yeah, they we see them at dinner where we get a little bit of the family dynamic. Sasha and Mia, well, especially Sasha, she's like stuck up and doesn't really like Mia. And you can tell it's a little rude. The father has some scuba team archaeologist that's going to come, so he can't go on a trip he had planned the next day with them. So he arranged for a glass bottom shark tour boat a ride for the two girls. Sasha doesn't want to go, but the mother kind of makes her. So yeah, Mia and Sasha end up taking off and going towards this outing. When they get there, of course, they see the mean girls, and then Sasha's two friends, Nicole and Alexa, show up and, offer to come and go with us. Don't go on that thing. Come with us. We'll take you to a spot that, Alexa offers to take them to a spot that no tourists could find. And, Sasha actually talks Mia into it because Mia doesn't want to go on that boat with the mean girls. So she's sort of like, do you want to go on the boat and be with that bitch all day? Let's skip it and go with my friends. So Mia does go with them, and the four of them head out. Now, it turns out Alexa has been messing around with Ben, who is two of the guys on her father Grant's team. So he had showed her this newly discovered entrance to this city. which is a sort of like a bunch of caves and a maze of caves. And he has shown her that, so that's where she takes them to. It's supposed to be a secret, but Alexa knows. So they get there, and it's this really beautiful pool, and they jump down into it, and they're swimming around. And because this is the entrance to that city, or one of the entrances, he is on the other side of it, the maze of tunnels and stuff, stringing lights for this team that's coming. So the scuba gear and everything that he has ready for those people is all right there on the little boat deck, or the pool deck that they put out there in the middle of it. So Alexa talks them into putting on the scuba gear and just going into the first room. Go down, go into the first big temple room. And so that's what they do. Now they go into this temple room, which has already got lights strung up in it. And, it's underwater, of course. And they do that. They go down there, and they're messing around in it. It's really beautiful. It's interesting. I could never do anything claustrophobic like that, though. But they go down there, they do that, and then Nicole, which I put parentheses, dumb bitch. Every movie, if you remember talking about Shark Night, I told you about Gordon. You've always got to have that one. There's always got to be the one that you hate, just hate their personality and don't mind at all seeing them die. As a matter of fact, you would actually prefer if they were taken out. Well, Nicole is the one in this movie. So she knocks over a column thinking that she saw something. And the room fills up with silt because, I guess cave divers, you would know the last thing you want to do is stir up silt and sand and stuff like that in an underwater environment. So they're all doing that, and when that comes down, the room of course fills up and they all freak. They're sort of panicky. Mia gets separated from Alexa and the other two, and there's a panicky moment, which would have been from the moment I stepped in the water for me. But there's a jump scare when all of a sudden Ben shows up behind her and is like, what in the hell are you doing here? And that freaks her out. And then Alexa shows up next to him, and he's like, oh, this is you. I should have known better than to have showed you this place. So he asked where the other two girls were. They're waiting by the entrance, and he's like, well, we've got to get out of here now. When all of a sudden we get to see the shark for the first time. And I really like the sharks in this movie. They are so cool looking. They're blind, they're albino-y. They've obviously evolved in this cave system. They are definitely great whites that have evolved into this gigantic great white sharks. But they did a really good job on them, in my opinion, with all of the cuts and the scrapes that you would normally expect to see on an animal in such an environment. So that was pretty cool. But he gets eaten right in front of them. Not, of course, as good as it could have been. And that freaks them all out. So the girls start trying to get out of that room back to the thing, to the pool that they were at. Now, of course, the shark comes after them, mainly because they're fucking kicking and screaming and carrying on. Hello, blind. If you would just shut up and sit still, everything would be fine, right? So it keeps trying to get into the tunnel, and it causes the entrance to collapse. So here they are trapped, and one of them, I guess Alexa or maybe Mia, remembered that Ben had a guideline with him, which is going to, of course, stretch through all of it. So they remember that, and she says that we have to go to my dad. We're going to have to go through this place, and we can use that guideline. Of course, there's a big giant shark in there, though, so, there's always got to be a foil to your plan. But, so, I put the blind cave shark idea is really cool. It is really cool. I mean, if you've seen this movie, those sharks look really good. They try to find Ben's lead line, and they managed to find it where he had dropped him when he had gotten devoured. And they start following it. They manage to follow it through the catacombs for a little bit, but then they find its end laying on the floor where it obviously had come apart, probably been cut by the rocks, the jagged rocks. So there they are without the lifeline, and they continue. They do end up finding a rover. That's one of those little underwater things that you hold on to, like it looks like a little missile, and you can ride it. Okay, so they find that, but of course it's making noise, so the shark eats it, and there he is after them again. So they all, of course, start panicking, especially Nicole. Please kill the bitch, please. I was just hungry for her to get eaten. But and if you see this movie, you can tell she is the troublemaker of the bunch. She's the dumb one that gets everyone in trouble. She knocked over the column. She's the one who wouldn't listen to them trying to give her scuba advice. Now here she is panicking, and they're trying to would you be still? So I'm like, y'all should just rip her mask off and let the bitch drown. You'd probably have a better chance of getting out, but that's just me. So they do manage to find a little air pocket because, of course, now they're 40%, oxygen. They don't really know what to do. And then all of a sudden, Mia hears music. And she's like, that's music. They can't seem to find a place out, though, but she does find a little corridor. It's pretty tight. And she starts swimming through that. She tells them to hold on while she goes and looks. Now, we then go into that room where we see what we think is her dad stringing lights, like that's what they were doing that day. So, and listening to music underwater, which is pretty neat. I actually didn't know that you could do that, but there was actually an underwater stereo system blasting out this pretty cool song. And so when we get close to him, though, we realize that it's not her dad. It's Carl, the other boy of the two that was on his team. So he starts hearing his stereo gets knocked over. He starts hearing noises, so he's looking around. And then, of course, you have that really tense scene. This movie was tense, but then, I'm kind of claustrophobic, so the movie was uncomfortable for me. But, so we see him creeping around, and of course, we see him getting eaten. So, one of the sharks gets him as well. These things are so huge, too. But he gets eaten, and then Mia manages to make it in there. She finds his broken helmet. Tension. Finds his head, his chewed up head. And there you go. So, she starts panicking, but then her dad shows up. She tells him what's happened. She tells him that Ben and Carl are obviously dead. I think he already knows about Carl, though. And then he starts saying that they have to follow him. So we get a lot of nice scenes of them trying to outdo the shark and get around, get out without a problem. They also kind of come to the conclusion that the scuba alarm, it's a little alarm that I guess scuba divers carry that flashes red. I actually just bought some little lanterns, and it actually does the same thing, but this one also emits a beacon. So, she puts that in her pocket. That was Carl's, and he had set it off right as he was getting attacked, which is probably what got her dad to come, was that alarm. So they're going in and out, going through these things. There's lots of tense scenes as they're trying to get out, especially with these dipshits, especially Nicole. So they managed to make it out through one of the exits into a very, very deep, deep pool. There is absolutely no way to get up there without the ascender. We learn something every day when we watch movies. So now I know about this thing called an ascender. It is a rope, I guess, maybe mountain climbers use it too, and spelunkers, but it's a rope that has a little contraption on it that you push it up, lock it, pull yourself up, and you keep doing that till you get to the top. Well, the sharks also appear below them in this pool, two of them this time. And Nicole flips the absolute fuck out. He's trying to get Alexa. Alexa's like halfway up, and Nicole is like, no, bitch, I'm going to crawl over your ass. I'm getting out of this pool. Now, granted, I would feel the same kind of anxiety, but I'm not going to destroy our only way out. So she does that, though. She causes the ascend line to flip. There's a couple cool scenes, like where Alexa's flips over and half of her's underwater and a shark almost gets her. Nicole keeps trying to get up, and she even causes the ascend line to fall completely. However, she had managed to get her hands on the rim, and I'm like, that's really unfair. You know what I mean? But I didn't have to suffer that emotion for long because her grip is not tight enough. And she goes tumbling backwards into this long drop into the water. And I'm like, yeah. And because she hits and goes so deep, both sharks get her. One end and the other end, and rip her in half. And that was a very satisfying kill for me. I mean, I would like to thank the director and the writers for doing that for me. I appreciate it. So Nicole is now dead, and the dad ends up saying, we've got to go. There's nothing we can do. We got to go back down and go the other way, go the other way out. And he even explains that, on the way there's going to be a vortex, a deep tunnel, and, it will suck you down. So you have to be very careful getting to the other tunnel on the other side of it. Now, right as he's having this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to get out of this mess. In other words, he's having the Samuel L. Jackson pep talk when you get the shit scared out of you in the same manner. And I'm like, that was such an obvious ode, but it was very well placed. And it did get me. And when he was having that little pep talk, I should have known. So I blame myself for that jump scare. But, so now he gets eaten right in front of his daughter, yeah. So she's, of course, flipping out. And so now you have Sasha and Alexa and Mia left. So they go down and try to continue with the plan. They get down there. They do notice that the shark is indeed repelled by that little alarm thing. So they keep that with them. And they manage to get to the tunnel that they were supposed to. And Sasha gets sucked down into the vortex by this explosively powerful current. And, okay, that sucked. And Alexa and Mia hug the wall to get around it to the other tunnel over there. And when they do, right as Alexa gets to it, she turns around to say something to Mia, and the shark grabs her from behind. Another well-placed jump scare. And she does the proper thing. It's just too late. And that is that she is not going to be dragged down that tunnel by the shark, so she takes the suit off, takes her tank off and the mask, And you kind of wonder at that moment, but I guess it's the same principle as jumping out of the 30th floor, 30th floor window when the building's on fire. It's sort of that same principle, which is, well, there is no other way. Flames are licking your ass. What's your choices here? The first choice, the first thing you got to do is get away from the fire, so you jump out the window and then try to figure out what the hell to do 30 floors down. Fly, perhaps. Maybe I can grab a hold of a window. Maybe Superman will save me like Lois Lane. I don't know, but the point is, you get away from the first danger. So she does that. She takes off the scuba gear and the hat, and and the helmet, and she manages to get away from the shark. And then I guess she realizes she's way deep underwater. And what are you going to do now? Because you are not a mermaid. So that was a pretty ugly scene, though. Because she drowns, and they show her drowned, and I'm like, yeah, well, it really is that same principle, because, you can pretty much guarantee when you jump out that burning building, you're going to end in a splat. But you have to do the first thing first, Try to figure out the rest later. Might as well try to fly. You're going to die anyway, right? So she did take it off. She did get away from the shark, and then she drowned. So I'm sure she probably thought that about 30 seconds after she got all that stuff off was, well, I'm away from the shark, and now what? Oops. No. Is drowning better than being eaten by a shark? I would have to say so. I don't know. We can play the how do you want to die game, right? Which would you prefer? I don't know. I heard drowning is pretty painful. But then is getting eaten in half by a shark, yeah? So, I don't know. You be the judge. You tell me. Which one would you rather have? So, Alexa drowns and loses grip of Mia, and Mia gets sucked down to the vortex. So, you're like, okay, well, something else has got to happen, because, you figured that vortex, you're going to be dead. But actually, no. When she gets to the bottom, a hand grabs her, and it's Sasha, and she's still alive, and you're like, oh, that's good. That's kind of nice. And they're like, well, what do we do now? We can't get back up. There's no way. There's like really extremely pressure, right? They find they see daylight, and they see that there's this little crack kind of tunnel thing. Reminded me of the Descent, but they see this little crack, and they start squeezing through it. They cannot get those tanks through it, though. It really is that small. So they take off their tanks and manage to shimmy the last little bit, and they do come out in the open ocean at the beach, like their dad said that tunnel led to. Well, this little tunnel also leads to the same place. So you're like, okay, well, that's good. You kind of think the movie's going to end there, but it actually doesn't. What are we going to do now? Big giant cliffs. And then you see the boat, and I'll be damned if it's not that exact shark boat that they were supposed to go on. So they start swimming towards it, and as they're swimming towards it, both they and I, at the same time, was like, what's all that red stuff? And then I realize, just as Mia realizes it, and that's like, oh, fuck. We're in chum. We're in chum. They are in the middle of the chum water. And the dude is like, can't hear them, and he's like, pitching chum over the side. And you're like, well, this is not good either. I mean, you make it through all that shit, and here comes 5,000 sharks coming towards the thing. They get just about to the boat when they are, of course, attacked by these frenzied sharks. That was really good. It was like really frenetic at the end. Lots of action, really quick action. you have the mean girl too. Catherine like sees them through the glass bottom boat, and there they are. And Sasha gets attacked. Mia manages to get up. She grabs a flare, jumps back down, shoots the shark. They go back up. They pull Sasha on board, and then Mia is pulled. A shark reaches up and grabs her, pulls her back down. Now she's in a big fight with the shark. She ends up like the shark tooth that her dad gave her at the beginning of the movie. She uses it to claw its eyes out. She gets away. She gets pulled up, and they're on the boat, and with everybody stunned. And yeah, they manage to get out. So they're going to have a sad story to tell. I mean, you're excited for them, but at the same time, and they've bonded. Like, who wouldn't bond? With that kind of situation, I'm sure you're going to come out a little bit bonded at the end. But, so now they love each other. I imagine so, yeah. But, it's still very, very sad because you imagine the mother. I mean, the dad is eaten. Both of his co-workers are eaten. All three of Sasha's friends, or the two Sasha's friends, are eaten or dead. Alexa drowned. But, yeah, it's not a happy ending. It's a happy ending for them, but it's not a happy ending. There's a lot of dead, and you can imagine how horrified the mother is going to be with, and what Mia's going to have to go through with her dad being eaten right in front of her. I don't think there's going to be a lot of peaceful sleeping. She's going to be sitting on YouTube listening to a lot of relaxation videos, which, meditate, binaural beats, sit back in your chair so you don't kill anyone videos that they have on YouTube. So I think she's going to be doing that a lot in the future. But yeah, there you go. That's 47 Meters Down, Part 2, Uncaged. Like I said, it isn't as good as the first one, but it is, because it's very differently approached. Once again, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. If this had not been geared for the teen audience, if this had been rated R, and they could have been more violent and more gory with the attacks. I know everybody points back at Jaws and goes, but that was only PG, and I agree. I agree. But that was back then, and this is now. There is so much competition, and there is so much aftermarket. This is a physical copy of a movie known in the industry as the aftermarket profits. So independent films especially really depend on aftermarket profit. Most of them don't even get into the theaters. They are released directly to Blu-ray or DVD. And I don't know, man, if I was a producer or a director, if you're talking about a horror movie, and I'm not talking about a Steven Spielberg kids movie here, which I like Super 8. I love Super 8. Super 8 is a really good movie, and it's perfectly fine to be PG, because, this is a horror movie, though. It's a shark attack horror movie. This should be rated R. Think about your aftermarket, okay? Well, you bought it. Yeah, I did. I'm not saying nobody's going to buy it. I'm just saying that you would probably get a bigger cult following if you, made it more collectible and likable by the adult aftermarket that usually does. It's not like there's a lot of 16-year-olds with giant movie collections. It's usually adults with a job that can afford this crap. So, yeah. That's my thing. I give it a 7. Well, it's actually like a 6.4. What did I put on it? I put 6.4 out of 10, but I upgrade, I up on International Movie Database, so I gave it a 7. But its official score is a 6.4 out of 10. which is great. It's fun. It's a decent, really entertaining movie. It's not too short. You know, I think it hits the 90-minute mark, so it doesn't get any points knocked off for being too short. It's good. And yeah, tell me what you think of 47 Meters Down, Uncaged. I like it. And I will see you in the next one as we try to wrap up Shark Week and then do my November collection update. So yeah, love you, miss you. Bye bye. And I will see you later. Always remember, never forget, you're a very, very special person. Even if you are not stuck in a cave with a blind cave shark trying to eat your ass. Okay? You're still very special. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. And so do my cute feet. Bye-bye.